Have you ever wondered how long it actually takes for you to get certain skills such as the handstand, handstand push-up, human flag, planche, and so many of these awesome hybrid calisthenics skills? I have coached hundreds of athletes in parkour, gymnastics, ninja warrior, as well here in Awesome Ninja Fitness will take everyday people like you to get the strength, skills, and freedom of movement of a bodyweight skills athlete. So we're going to be talking about a lot of numbers and a lot of skills to try to get you about how long it should take you typically to get that skill, as well as how long it should take to get the progressions and the milestones in between. These are not exact numbers. These are averages. It could be various reasons such as injuries, not doing for a while, having more experience, and based on your background. So don't take this as a golden rule. Just a rough estimate to see where you're at. Now let's give you an idea of a couple of these skills that we're going to talk about. These means the handstand, the elbow levers, front lever, human flags, one arm push-ups, pistol squats, and even some acrobatic skills such as front flips and back flips. So get ready for that. Starting with the classic, which is the handstand. It should take you somewhere between 3 to 12 months to get the full handstand. The good news is the progressions are really easy. A lot of people start with the crow pose, which you can get easily within a month. After that, within the next 4 weeks, you should be able to hold a handstand against the wall for 20 to 30 seconds. The next 2 weeks, you're increasing your technique by doing handstand bounces, as well as learning how to safely bail if you would fall forward. At about 2 to 4 months, that's when you're able to start holding the handstand. Especially during this time, you still have the wall to help you assist to get you into the wall. You don't need a kick up yet. And then finally, within the last 4 to 12 months is when you're trying to get it freely on the ground, holding to about 30 seconds. While you're working on that, maybe the handstand push-up is something you can work towards it. If you work both at the same time, you'll get the handstand push-up faster. Usually the handstand push-up takes 6 to 24 months to get. Getting those shoulder strength is a lot more difficult than people realize. Just try doing a piked push-up right now. Pike push-up using help such as the box, you should get a full range of motion within 2 months. About 2 to 6 months when you get the full range of motion of a handstand push-up against the wall. Then at the 6 to 18 month range is when you're doing a strict handstand push-up at about 3 reps, where you're still using the wall to assist you, but you are doing all the work. Last, which is the hardest part, is about 18 to 24 months is where you're getting the freestanding handstand push-up. Obviously, you need the prerequisite to get the handstand, so even if you want to get the freestanding handstand push-up, you still need to be able to hold the handstand, which takes about 4 to 12 months anyway, so even if you have the strength, you still need to be able to hold it. Now, what about the one-handed handstand? Well, against the wall, it's actually pretty easy, and the good news is that this is a prerequisite in order to get the human flag, which we'll talk about in a bit. First off, this takes 24 to 36 months, obviously, because we know it takes at least 12 months on average to get the full handstand. Once you're doing that, you should be able to do one-handed handstands against the wall for about 30 seconds. Then the 6 months after that is when you're slowly just being able to shift your weight from one side to the other. Once you're able to hold the handstand consistently for at least 30 seconds, this is when you're going to be able to do that. Then you're doing handstands in which you're on your fingertips with one hand at about 6 to 18 months. And then the last part is you're slowly being able to shift on your arms and be able to do the full one-handed handstand. For those watching this, we talked about the easiest skills that you can get, and the elbow lever is one of those. You could get this in about 2 to 8 hours max. The only limit is depending on if you have any wrist problems. So, for most of you, you've tried right now putting your elbows right into your hip bone and bouncing on the floor, and you should be able to get that right now. The good news is it also uses the same muscles that you'd use in the planche. If for whatever reason you are not able to get this, then you need to do prerequisites such as push-ups in order to strengthen those wrists until you're able to put more pressure on them. Speaking about the planche, that's another one of those strong milestones that most people want to get. However, it takes 18 to 36 months on average. The good news is that there are so many smaller versions of the full planche that you can do that the journey to it, you're always advancing. You can start within the first 3 months to just work on planche leans, where you're just leaning forward, your shoulders as forward as you can, holding that for about 20 seconds. Then the next 3 to 6 months, then you're doing tucked planche. Most of you can already start with that, where you're just putting your hands and you're lifting your legs, making sure your back is horizontal. Once you have that proper technique, the most ones progress very quickly. Every 3 months, you should be moving up into the next stage. So at 6 to 12 months, you're doing an advanced tuck, or a one-leg tuck version, where one leg is straight and one leg is bent, holding that for about 10 seconds. Next is straddle, when you're hitting about the 12 months range, and then from there, from 12 to 36 months, depending on where you're at, you're slowly getting to the full planche. In fact, some people even skip the straddle planche and they just do the advanced tuck and slowly get one leg more and more straight. The reason why this move is so different for so many people is because it uses an angle based on your center of gravity. If your legs are bigger and stronger, if your legs are longer, if your chest is a little bit longer than normal, then the angle is different. This is why this one, probably has the biggest difference. 18 to 36 months is so different. Similar to the next one, which is the front lever. A lot easier. You can get this within 6 to 18 months. And same thing, there's so many variations within it that are very very similar to the planche, such as starting for the first 2 months, it's getting the tucked version for about 10 seconds, then the advanced tucked version in which your legs are slowly opening up, going into one leg when you're about 4 to 8 months, then the next 6 to 12 months is on straddle, and then eventually you're getting into full. Very similar to the planche, some people skip straddle and just go to the one leg and slowly get that straighter and straighter just because it's a little bit easier. I myself have very, very weak hips, so I don't do the straddle versions, but it does help. And going into straddle or straight legs, next we have the human flag. Again, this is a very core heavy move, but it has a pushing and pulling element to it. This takes 6 to 12 months. If you want to know if you're able to do the human flag with the amount of push and pull you need about 10 seconds of a one arm hang and about 10 seconds of a one arm handstand against the wall. So you have two routes. Route number one is you're working on balance and core with moves such as the handstand, the planche, where you're working on core already and slowly working towards that one arm hang and then one arm handstand, because then you can just get to the human flag very quickly. The second path is human flag variations, where we can get you about 6 to 12 months to get to it. Just like how we control how difficult it is based on how far away our legs are, then after we do the 45-degree version, then we're doing the tucked version of the human flag, which takes you about 2 to 4 months. At the 4 to 6 month range, that's when you're doing a one-legged human flag, and then between the 6 to 12 months is the full human flag. But one we've already done is the one arm push-up, which is much faster than you think. It takes about 3 to 9 months only to get the one-armed push-up. We've already done a full video breakdown on the push-up, but to get a good level of push-ups, starting from against the wall, all the way until you're slowly lowering the weight until you're on your knee push-ups, into negatives, until full push-ups, honestly, getting the push-up is the hardest part for most people. Then the progressions go very quickly. Once you get to 2 months working on push-ups, ideally you're working on archer push-ups. From week 8 to 16, you're doing negative one-arm push-ups to the floor, which should get you ready for the full one-arm push-ups, at least 1 rep within 3 months. Maybe it takes up to 9 months. Another skill that is way easier than most people think is the muscle up. The hardest part of getting the muscle up is just getting to the point of getting the pull up. Again, we've done a full video breakdown on the pull up. That means it should take you about 3 to 6 months once you are first getting your pull up, because your first 4 weeks is increasing that number of pull ups until you get between 5 to 10 pull ups and making sure that they're high pull ups. So it's not just your chin over the bar, it's where your chest is touching the bar, and making sure you're able to do dips. But honestly, that is way easier than a pull up. Then when you're 1 to 2 months in, that's when you're working on negative pull ups, jumping pull ups, or you're using a band to help you with the muscle up drills. From month 2 to 4, you're doing a kipping variation, which actually makes it a lot easier in order for you to get the muscle up. After that, you're going from leg straight to less kipping to less swinging to the strict muscle up, which takes you about that 3 to 6 month range. And the good news is once you have the pull up, you can also learn an amazing skill within 2 to 6 months, which is a 360-degree bar spin. This is another skill I want to do a full tutorial in, because it gives you that freestyle street workout acrobatics, which is not as difficult as it looks, but it does feel freaking cool. Honestly, for most people, the first month is just learning how to control your swing forward and back, having an understanding of your body. If you've done any bodyweight controlling movements, such as the animal movements we do here at Awesome Ninja Fitness, this will come a lot quicker. They're going to require a full tutorial on their own, but if you click the link below, there's a free guide that shows all the progressions for these moves as well. As you can see here, it starts with the bar swing, as we mentioned. Then the next 2 weeks is just learning how to swing slightly higher. Please use a stable bar. Then you're learning how to do a swing 180. The next is an X grip swing, where you're just grabbing the bar in your hands in an X swing, so you're kind of cheaty doing the 360. You're already prepared yourself, you do a 180 and then another 180. So going from what you just did before to that is actually very quick. And then after that, you have a cross grip 360, which makes it a lot easier to do a full 360. And then after that 2 months, you're probably already doing a 360-degree turn. Again, we're going to do a full tutorial breakdown on that a little bit later to really break down the technique and how it's supposed to work, but really just know that there's a really cool move out there that once you're able to hang on a bar and dead hang for a couple seconds, it only takes 2 to 6 months. Speaking of things that take very quickly, is actually the pistol squat. Once you can do a full body squat, this is when that 1 to 3 months starts. The first 2 weeks is using a assisted box that allows you to go all the way down and all the way up. Then you're doing a controlled negatives, such as you're using an elastic or a bar or even the door frame that allows you to go all the way down to control the full negative, and then you're using whatever you need to help going all the way up. Ideally, once you hit the 2-month range is when you're doing your first pistol squat, and then it's off to doing multiple sets per leg. Again, we've done a full tutorial on the pistol squat as well. The good news is once you have the pistol squat, it only takes 1 to 3 months after that to get something called a dragon squat, which you're just making it harder by having more balance and putting your body in a really weird position. Now I want to touch on a couple of acrobatic moves a little bit, the back flip and the front flip, because this really depends on where you're training, who you're training with, because it's a very technical skill. Usually the more technique you need, that is the difference between a beginner and advanced of how long it actually takes. This is why if you actually control control your body and learn how to move your body properly. You build up that mind-body connection and that body awareness. So if you do want to join the Awesome Ninja Fitness program, that is why we use animal movements as well as bodyweight movements. Someone who just does your typical calisthenics strength workout will have a better idea of how to control their body than someone who does a typical gym strength workout. They might be similar strength, but when it comes to actually using your body, this is where they'll have an advantage. And even more if you do other bodyweight movements, such as parkour, gymnastics, and acrobatic moves, or you start very simple like we do, learning how the handstands and animal movements. So this can take 3 to 6 months. Also, it depends on where you're training, because it depends on what safety things you have. For example, I learned the front flip outside within that 6-month range. However, it took me an entire year to get the backflip on my own, just on solid ground. And this wasn't even outside yet, just because I started later, so I was scared of going backwards. All these moves, what you need to do is find a way in order to work on the skill without it being dangerous for yourself. That's why I'd strongly recommend working with someone who knows what they're doing, or something I call the garbage technique. Most parkour flips, backflip, front flip, and side flip, you can learn by using something that's about just below shoulder height. All you're doing is you're doing the move on top of that thing until at one point you're doing it over the thing. These acrobatic moves need a lot more detail and explanation, which can't be really explained in just a couple of seconds, so look out for that. If any of this was helpful and you actually want to talk and work with a coach such as myself to help you see how long you think it will take for you to get certain these skills, how to build up a plan and get that ready for you, well, we have a free guide down below. You can go ahead and grab that. But you can see that now that you actually have an idea of certain numbers, many of these skills are definitely achievable. If there's any skills that we listed here, or that maybe that weren't mentioned yet and you want to get a full breakdown, or we didn't mention the numbers, go ahead and let me know. The best way to do that is within the community. For those who are watching here live, we are going to talk that live in the Q&A right after this about certain skills that we didn't hit. That is also linked below. So there are so many skills you want to learn. Prioritize what you want to learn, have an idea of how to do that, and while you're learning those, always stay awesome.